is a Japanese artist who makes music that you could describe as chiptune, you could describe it as hardcore breaks even, you could describe it as intense bangers, because that's essentially what she does. Pure Fire is exactly what it says it is from front to back. This album is just insane from start to finish. The flames burning out of your earphones, your headphones, your speakers will be intense. 26 minutes long, this album wastes no one's time. It just gets you straight into it by knocking you completely off your feet with the opening track, which just, every time this track comes on, I am just wowed by. I really cannot explain how just fiery this is, just how intense it is from the get-go, and I just think it's fucking fantastic. The vocals are interwoven with this absolutely ridiculous beat is awe-inspiring, because it's just so difficult to really pinpoint exactly what the appeal of the track is, because a lot of it just ends up confusing you, and because of how hard-hitting it is, you don't really get any opportunity to stop and think about what exactly it is that Toriena is even doing on this one. It's just a mind-boggling way to kick off an album. The completely warped and twisted, wobbling bass line on Acid Cuff is once again just there to create a huge amount of noise. It is probably anxiety-inducing to an extent, because if you were just not really ready to hear something as kind of pummeling as this, you might be pretty scared. You might be scared. And it takes you back to those kind of like heavy bassline tracks that you would have heard a lot more in the UK in the 2000s, particularly like the mid to late 2000s. They're still going today, but you know, there was an era where this kind of music was just dominating, you know, parties and clubs. Again, it will still be like that today if we were able to actually go to clubs, because you know how that is in 2020. Butterfly Effect attacks your brain. The beat on this one is just ridiculous. Again, I probably keep using that word, but my god, this beat really could be off-putting actually. I feel as though if you were just not really in the mood for something like this, it could definitely annoy the hell out of you. But for some reason, each time I put this on, I'm just instantly hooked onto it. It's like a weird little drug. Instantaneously gets you just pumped up and ready, and you are just ready to bounce around, because how can you not bounce around to this? The title track, Pure Fire, the title track is just so high velocity, and the speed this is going at is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sonic the Hedgehog ain't got shit on this track, because the absolute insane beats per minute, it must be just, I don't even know, it's wow, it's impressive. It reminds me a lot of the SCJ album that came out last year, which I actually really loved, put it really high on my year-end list, even made it onto my decade list because I liked it that much too, and it deserves to be there as well. It's definitely one of the most impressive albums that uses sampling, that uses, you know, a really interesting way of kind of combining electronic ideas, drum and bass, so many different things onto one album, and it just start to finish, just it's continuous. It's a continuous run of just tracks kind of meshed together. It's super impressive, and this track is totally reminiscent of that. So if that's not high praise for me, then I don't know what is, because that album really was so damn good. Flashback reminds me of some PC Music type stuff. The kind of cartoonish beat on this one definitely reminds me of something you'd hear on some of the kind of like early Sophie projects, or even some other artists on the PC Music label. Just has this really kind of like 8-bitty type instrumental that just sounds like, again, it has this very like playful, cartoonish type feel to it, which definitely gives off those PC Music vibes. I love the part of the track where there's like this phone dial in the beat. Like, again, just really clever use of adding in a sample that's so out of place and so just off kilter and weird, but it just works its way into the beat so well. And as soon as like the phone dial stops, it kind of like just sets off the track. Kind of, it's very weird. It's like a rocket just about to take off, and it's like the phone dial kind of like leads up to it, and it just kind of goes. You do hear Toriena incorporate some vocals throughout this album quite a few times, particularly on the opening track, but Getting Into a Pose is definitely one of the most dominant tracks with her vocals. This one reminds me of something you'd hear on like RuPaul's Drag Race or something, which I do actually really enjoy. And there's some random episodes every now and then where the contestants have to sing, and some of them have these very odd robotic voices. Just watch some random episodes, you'll see what I mean. And this definitely reminds me of that. Artificial intelligence type of vocals coming through here, they're very robotic and odd to just add this twisted sense of nature to the track, which I actually really dig a lot. And I like the repetition of Getting Into a Pose. I think this one is so strange, but I appreciate how otherworldly it is. Something relatively seductive and alluring about the way she's singing here. It's just very strange, manages to incorporate itself into the beat very nicely. It's a really interesting track, and showing the dynamics of how this album can just go from something completely different to something like even more insane within a few seconds. It's really impressive. The flow of this thing I just find to be absolutely shocking. It's shocking because there's just so much going on, and I just end up finding myself appreciating it more and more each time I listen to it. Angry Gal is probably one of the few tracks that I can't properly get myself into. It just sounds very nightmarish. Honestly, man, this just like in your headphones or your earphones or whatever, just absolutely just messes with you. It's so strange and just weird as hell. It does just kind of worm its way into your brain in the strangest way, and I feel as though that track could get a bit much with more and more listens, because it already is getting a bit much. But apart from that, I feel like this album just has so much to offer. I like how the closing track just ends up being this really soft, mellow end to the album, which is this like nice little cool down. It's like the warm down, when you were at PE at school and the PE teacher's like, right, now you've done all the intense exercise, now it's time for a warm down. Let's do a bit of stretching, maybe play some dead fishes where you have to stay quiet, you have to lay on the floor and do nothing. It's kind of like that weird little cool down section of the album. But it's weird because it is just a really short end to the album, but it actually has this really lovely beat. Like, I really like this instrumental. It's just so soothing and soft, and again shows the versatility of what Toriena can do. Definitely a huge talent at the moment that I think needs way more attention than she's got. And honestly, one of my favorites of the year. Definitely an album that has grown on me with more listens. The more I've heard it, the more wowed I am by it. It isn't losing its flair, and that's really good as well, because an album like this could get a bit repetitive, I could imagine, the more you listen to it, but it isn't really doing that for me, and I'm just finding it extremely exciting every time I put it on. So I'm going an 8 out of 10. Don't ever say I'm not positive, because I gave an 8 out of 10 yesterday, and today on the channel we're doing another 8 out of 10. It's a great album, really enjoying this. Hopefully you check it out based on my recommendation. If some of you have already heard it though, that would be great to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you have a good day. Hopefully you check out this album and find some new music that you love. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, subscribe, and goodbye.